Hi guys, it's Jake here at Canadian Cutting Edge, and today we're going to take a look at the Ganzo G752. This knife is a knife that I've had for several weeks now, almost a month, and I still haven't done a review on it, and I want to let you know all about it. This is my first Ganzo with bearings, and there's going to be more coming out soon. I just saw a posting by Ganzo on my Facebook feed where they are officially announcing their first knife with titanium scales and what's the name of it now? The expensive steel, the 35VN, S35VN, sorry, took a while for me to get that. S35VN steel, titanium blade handle scales that are anodized in this really funky green that I find quite attractive. At least that's what the Facebook post looks like. So if you're on Facebook, look up Ganzo Knives, go to their wall, and you'll see that there's this knife out there. But we're going to talk about this one, the G752. Stick around. We're going to put the camera in the tabletop mode, and we'll take a good look at this knife. As we're looking at this thing, let's just go over some of the measurements. We've got 3 5/8 for the cutting edge, which is, I think it's 9 centimeters. 9 centimeters, maybe plus a little bit, just over 9 centimeters. We've got 12 centimeters for the handle, which I think is 4 5/8. Yeah, it's about 4 5/8 for the handle. Altogether, the knife is 8 1/4, 8 5/8 inches long, which is right around 21.5 centimeters. The knife is about 1 inch from spine to cutting edge, and the handle in most areas is like 1 1/8 inch, right around 1 inch for most of it. And those are the general perspectives, sizes, specifications of this knife. We've got a nice stonewash blade with this nice blood groove, a nice riser here, drop point, good belly, good flat area, really nice sharpener's choil right there to come off this flipper. The jimping on the thumb ramp is, gentle, but it's adequate. It provides, good traction on it. Flat Scandi-grind goes up about 5/8 of an inch, I think, roughly. No, it's actually more like 3/4 of an inch from the spine till the Scandi ends. So that allows this 1/8 inch of thick steel, 3.2 centimeters, millimeters, centimeters. And that makes this knife a good slicer. It cuts well. The edge has been really sharp. I've not touched it up at all from the day I bought it, or the day I got it even. The day I bought it, I didn't touch it for like 4 weeks. It's slow getting mail in here to Canada. And then we've got the stainless steel bolster on both sides, anodized accent steel, so the thumb studs and the screws are all anodized. Back spacer here is G10. The scales here are G10. It's one of those crosses between a liner lock and a frame lock kind of knife. So where the locking arm meets the blade, it's like a frame lock. So if you see it from there up, it looks like you're holding a frame lock, and you see it from here back, and it looks like you're holding a liner lock knife. It's pretty nice. I like the way it is. I like the way it works out. It's got a good, strong detent that I really like. You even heard that, I'm sure, which I appreciate a lot, so that there's no chance of this knife opening in your pocket or opening when you don't want it to. We've got a tip-up pocket clip, so you can use it tip up, and it's got the option right here to put it tip down. Both of them are right side only. There's no options on this left side for your pocket clip at all. It comes in the orientation of the tip up from the factory, which I kind of like, because I'm thinking probably more than 3/4, probably 90–85% of you guys and gals watching prefer tip up. I really don't mind that awful much either way. Some knives just feel better in the hand if it's tip down than it is tip up. And that's the main deciding factor for me where I like a pocket clip. If there's options to move it around to other locations, I move it everywhere, and the hand feel is my deciding factor of where I'm putting that pocket clip. The G752 comes in the G7522 right now. The last two designates the steel treatment. So you've got 3 digits saying what model it is, G752, and then the final 2 or 1 or 3 on your various knives designate the steel type and the treatment on the steel. When Ganzo first started adding a 4th digit, they didn't use that kind of designation. They did some weird things, like on the G714. They also had the G7142, which was a totally different style of knife. So the G714 is a tanto, and the G7142 is more like this blade. So this knife will come in a variety of colors. It's got the black G10 now. Well, it does come in orange and green as well. Who knows, it might even come with satin blade sometime soon. One of the things that they did that is unique to the, not unique, that is their starting point for this, and I've just recently found out they've gone back and done this to some of their older models, is they're skeletonizing the liners. I got a picture from one of my viewers who has a G740, which I did a review for a while ago. You can look that up and watch it. And mine does not have skeletonized handle scales, liners, and his does, and I've got a picture of it. So that's a really good thing. It's good to see that Ganzo is not only changing things moving forward, but they're hearing the concerns of a lot of knife lovers who want lighter knives, and Ganzo really has a lot of quite heavy knives. I personally don't mind the weight. It gives me a sense of, you know, this is robust and big and strong, but there is also a very definite place for lighter knives. That being said, let's find out exactly what the weight is for this knife. 142 grams, 5 ounces on the nose. At 5 ounces, I think this knife is a very good weight. It feels comfortable in my hand. The balance on this knife is right around that line where the bolster and the G10 meet, which is right where your index finger sits. And for me, that's perfect. I like that balance point. You may have noticed as I turn this knife back and forth that this side has the nice anodized steel fasteners everywhere. And on this side, I've got a black screw. And that is because when I was taking it apart to see the different liners and everything, and to see the skeletonizing and everything, the screw got stripped. It wasn't in there that's super tight, and I've heard from some other people that they have a complaint about some of Ganzo's hardware being too soft. Ganzo, I think you need to spend just a little bit more money to make slightly harder, better quality fastening hardware. And now what I'll do is I'll take this knife apart and show you exactly what the skeletonized liners look like. Before I finish taking this apart, you can see that these liners are not just flat with some skeletonizing in them. They are 3-dimensional. And so are the liners. The liners have been milled out on the inside to make them lighter. So the G10 scales here, liners, I called them liners, didn't I? The scales are milled out to make them thin and light. I like that an awful lot. You get enough fractions of an ounce and you end up being lighter. Okay, so here you can see the style of, there we go, focused. The style of bearings that we have. It's an open cage bearing, and you know, that's all that there is on either side. There's no other washers or other surfaces that come into play. Let me put this back together. We'll do some cut tests, and then we'll have our final thoughts. One of the things I didn't mention before is blade centering is perfect. It's easy to blade center it. Perhaps that's one of the advantages of bearings. I'm not quite sure if that if knives with bearings are easier to get to a good tension for centering, the pivot and everything for having blade centering. It's so easy to get this knife to have good blade centering, with the proper tension, how tight you screw the pivot screw, with it still being able to actuate, and being nice and free to open the knife, flick it up with a flipper or with your thumb. It just works smoothly, and all I had to do was tighten it until it was in the middle, and it's just perfect. That is so easy to do on this knife, and I find that tremendously, satisfying, and so easy to get it that way. I do need to add one piece of information that might have been misleading before. When I talked about the pivot screw being too soft and Ganzo needing to harden them, I'm talking in the context of about 40 Ganzo knives that I own. That was the first time I had one strip out. So, and you're talking about, 6-7 screws per knife. It's not that bad, but it still could be tweaked and improved just a little bit by Ganzo. So I'm not complaining about their hardware being terrible. It's just, one bad screw, or maybe a big part of it is how good your hardware, your screw driving hardware is. If you've got high quality drivers, they're going to work in a screw much better, much less chance of stripping it out than if you just get cheap Harbor Freight or other cheap dollar store type of screwdrivers. It really does pay great dividends to have quality drivers. Not only will it save your screw bits, your bits and your screws, the tip of your driver will last longer, and it'll be more enjoyable because it'll be easier, less frustrating. You'll have to focus less on, getting the right angle and pushing really hard to make sure that it maintains the bite. It's just easier to work with if you have good drivers. So now let's do our cut tests. We've got paracord, 550 paracord here. All right, I've got 4 layers right there, because 4 layers is 4 times the test that 1 layer is, right? So here we go. Slice through that, no problem. And let's see how we can slice through just one of these. No problem at all to cut through them that way. Let's try something a little more challenging. This is a heavy cord from, some power. No, this isn't a power cord. This is a cord from an Xbox controller. And it slides through that even easier than the paracord. Well, at least easier than 4 layers of paracord. And this cable, if you've seen a lot of my videos, you've seen this before. There's a lot of different metal and things inside this cable. It's not a light little telephone cable or something. There's a lot of stuff in there that it had to go through. And it goes through that, no problem. So if it cuts through that cable just fine, then 1 inch of webbing should be no problem. I almost tried to poke myself there. I didn't. You see, I'm fine, but almost tried. That little mark that you saw, that's a previous little nick that I did when I was playing with my knives while watching TV. Okay, so there you go. You saw some cut tests. You saw the different aspects of this knife. What are my overall impressions? I really like this knife, and I like it a lot. I've liked this style for a long time. I like the handle style because you've got this little extra bit that comes down on the back of the handle, so it helps your hand, stay in on this end. And I like this nice big choil and that little bit extra that the flipper gives you for your hand. I would like maybe just a slight bit more of a belly in the handle right here, but the way it is just fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It feels really good in the hand. So the handle style I like a lot. I like the looks of a bolster and then G10, or wood or whatever you have back here in a different material. I like the bolster kind of thing. And this is better, in my opinion, than a bolster here and then a back bolster as well. Plus, it's a bit lighter. That's just aesthetics. That's just, how I like the look of it. The blood groove here in the blade, that's totally aesthetic for me as well. I don't go around trying to bleed out different critters or whatever. But it looks good and I like it. The edge has been done really, really well. And it's stayed sharp all the way through. I like the little bit of a ramp there. The thumb studs work very well and they don't get in the way of your cut. They don't take up an awful lot of space. I've mentioned it in other videos. I don't like it when the thumb stud gets too far out because then you can't cut right through with something. Other things that I really like, I've mentioned this before, Ganzo somehow makes a $20, $23, $24 knife, yet they use wire EDM technology to cut out the lock arm on a liner lock or frame lock. And that makes a nice clean finish to it that you just don't find on most knives. I see a lot of knives that $60, $70, $80, and you've got, probably not an 1/8 of an inch, but more than a 1/16 of an inch trench. The width of the trench that's down along the side, and that just seems ugly to me. I kind of like their new branding, Firebird, that you see right there. So there you go. I recommend this knife. I like this knife. It's comfortable. It feels good. It looks good. There's almost nothing that I would do to change it. I might like a little spacer, if they would have provided a spacer that I can put in there. So I recommend this knife. I like this knife. And if you're looking for a knife of this kind of style, generally speaking, I say go buy one. Buy one anywhere and wherever you can. I'll put links to where I bought mine in the description below. Thanks for watching. Remember, always subscribe to my channel and then cut towards your chum and not your thumb.